Hello, Guardians. Welcome back to Tower Casuals, the Destiny podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Corey Deerigan. Alongside me, as always, is the man who abandoned me in the show to go see Luka Doncic, Josh Finney. Just kidding. Josh is not here. Also, I'm flying solo tonight because Zencaster doesn't want to work. Internet's wonky. We're moving. There's a whole slew of things going on right now. So I'm going to do my best. I'm going to do my best because I know a lot of people love having the show on Fridays. So I'm going to do my best. PvP person here. Superstar, PvP superstar. I'm going to do my best to read this TWAB. We're going to answer some questions. We're going to do some things. So, strap in. We're going in. So this TWAB is huge, right? It's 6,700 words or so. I highly recommend, especially if you're a PvP player, to have the TWAB open like we always have you do. But before we get to that, can we just say that Josh abandoned you? All of you. Josh abandoned all of you to be within 100 feet of Luka. I don't even think he wants to watch the game. I think he just wants to touch Luka. I think he wants Luka to throw his sweaty socks out there. Josh will catch them and smell them. I'm telling you. That's what he's doing. He doesn't even care about the Mavs. I can sit here and complain about the Mavs for him or the Seahawks. Baseball season starting. I can complain about the Rangers, right? That's his team. I could do that. I could really do that. But no, I'm not going to do that. I didn't abandon you. Would never abandon you. Anyways, I'm just kidding, Josh. Hope you're having a good time. But I know a lot of people rely on the show on Fridays. I know I don't like it when my shows miss weeks. So, like I said, there's a lot of variables going on right now to where I'm here by myself. But we're gonna do it. We're gonna make it work. Hope you guys enjoy it. I'm gonna be talking a lot more than I usually do. So sorry, everybody. I do want to say it's been a week. It has been a week, and I'm not just saying that because we are required to say it on this show, but man, work's been super busy. We're moving, preparing for PAX East. I'm going there with my other podcast network. It's going to be a good time. If any of you are going, by the way, let me know. If anybody out there is going to PAX East that listens to this show, let me know. Hit me up. Discord, Twitter, whatever. We're preparing for that. Scheduled my first 2 meetings today. Scheduled some stuff with Xbox today. It's been a busy week, man. It's just truly been busy. And also, this is the second to last show in this office, everybody. So if you're watching the video, this is your last look at this messy, nasty office. Oh man, I've had some good times in here. Had some really, really good times in here. Started the show in here, Started the show in here. It's been a good ride. But enough of that. We've got a lot of questions to get through. We've got a lot of Crucible stuff to talk about. So I saw some discourse in our Discord about this PvP stuff. I know a lot of the PvP guys are kind of upset about some of these changes, but the not so hardcore PvP people are kind of happy about some of these changes. So we'll get into that. I'm not sure what is going on really, because I'm not really the PvP guy. I like PvP enough, but just recently it hasn't been very fun for me personally. Although I'm itching to get back into some PvP stuff. Maybe in a couple weeks. I'm going to hit up the Discord, by the way, soon, because I would really like to do some raids and dungeons and some in-game stuff that I haven't gotten to yet, because I've taken I would say a hefty break from Destiny, to the point where like I logged in the other day. I'm like, well, I don't even have no idea what's going on right now. I have no idea. No clue. I logged in to buy the Mass Effect stuff. Really excited. Yes, Johnny, I saw your comment about collaborations. I am going to answer it because I actually have some answers I have been thinking about, because I don't mind the crossover stuff so much. Some of it I think is kind of cool. Some of it is like, I mean, The Witcher and Assassin's Creed probably don't. Those were not great decisions, but I think if you pick the right franchises and the right, you know, I think if you pick the right games, it could work. But it has to be very specific. And I know there's some other crossover questions about, why does it work here and not other places. We'll get there. But let's get to this TWAB, because it's pretty beefy. It's pretty big. Like I said, I would recommend you have it open, especially you PvP people. Also, write in. Comment in the Discord under the podcast thread. I want to know what you guys think of these changes, truly. I'm really interested to see what our community thinks, because it's been I don't know. It's just been some weird and hotly contentious thing. Not just in our Discord, but on social media. And obviously, like, Twitter's the place you should go for all of your up-to-date information on Destiny. Can't say it with a straight face. It's all right, though. It's crazy. Anyways, here we go. So let's get into this. There is a PvP strike team update from the Destiny 2 community team. Let's see. Topics for this week: PvP strike team update, accessibility and console UI updates, prophecy dungeon weapons updates. Ooh, neat. Normandy crew winners. So let's get to this PvP strike team update first. I'm going to kind of read along here and kind of give my tentative thoughts on these things. And then, we'll go from there. Like I said, I'm not exactly the PvP person, but I do have thoughts on certain things. Maybe not the meta, maybe not, artifact stuff or mods or roles or anything, but I do have some thoughts on other things. So we'll get there. Hey folks, it's the PvP strike team here. Today we would like to share our thoughts on the current state of PvP, our philosophy, and changes we have planned. I'm reading this off of a screen mirror from my phone. So please forgive me if I am squinting or taking a minute. We believe Destiny PvP gameplay provides players with a unique experience that can stand out on its own, but it needs a clear vision alongside ongoing iteration. For some time, the Crucible hasn't felt like it's had that. We've been saying that for like 3 years. Thank you. This has made it difficult for us to attract players to the Crucible, leading to a slow bleed of our PvP population over the last couple of years as veterans move on and are not replaced by fresh players. Returning to our core mission, we want to refocus on rewarding the players who love Crucible, as well as push to provide a baseline variety of experiences to ensure that there is always something appealing for PvP enjoyers. Since the PvP strike team was formed, the bulk of our work has been focused on finding solutions for 5 major issues: Crucible maps, rewards, game modes, sandbox issues, matchmaking. So we've talked about all that on the show, right? Definitely maps. Definitely trying to keep a fresh PvP population. I used to play PvP all the time, even as a casual player, and I've fallen off. I've gone to other games. Halo is one. Uh, I know a lot of people are jumping into Helldivers right now. There's a lot of different games. Fortnite is a big one too, right? There's a lot of PvP out there that is taking away from Destiny, and that's because Destiny hasn't provided a strong PvP experience for a long time, right? So you could argue like Trials is you could argue that, I guess. Even Iron Banner isn't what it used to be, right? So uh, let's address the Crucible maps first. Due to its dynamic nature, PvP can create content on its own, and every match can tell a story. But our players have spent millions of Guardian hours on our current selection of maps, playing the same game modes in the same arenas. It feels as though most of these stories have already been told, and there's only so much you can do in the same play spaces. Additionally, different modes require different kinds of maps to succeed, and our limited map selection means we have often pushed modes onto maps where they are not necessarily optimal, resulting in subpar player experience. Our current crop of maps has not been updated in some time in terms of spawns, ammo crate locations, zones, etc. And this is exacerbating the issue as we continue to add newer modes to old maps. An example would be maps made for Rift being used for Clash and Control, like Disjunction, the Citadel, Convergence, and Cathedral of Dusk. Very true. I have often thought, and we've discussed it on the show too, where there needs to be maps. You cannot have a jack of all trades map. It doesn't work like it used to, right? It's not Halo. And even Halo has different maps for stuff like Big Team Battle and SWAT and stuff like that. You need maps for specific game modes. That is my opinion. It's always been my opinion. It's been my opinion since Halo 3, even the early Call of Duty games when I was playing those, even Gears, right? Like I used to be a really, really heavy Gears PvP player. Everybody only wanted to play Gridlock for certain modes. And, it's certain game modes work on certain maps and other ones don't. And that is an issue Destiny has had, I would argue, since the very beginning of Destiny. Uh, Control is kind of like the only mode that has like a universal feeling on every map, and even then, it's like, well, Control works really well on this map, but not great on this other map. So, I would agree with everything they're saying here. To help with this, we've made some substantial quality of life passes on existing maps. All right, so it's sectioned off into already live. There's an update 7.3.5 on March 5th. There are and then there's a May update, which we're going to get to in a minute. So already live, initial map spawning quality of life pass. So they've gone through all the maps where spawns happen, made a pass, made sure that the quality of life of those are up. Great. That's great. I can't tell you how many times I've spawned on a map, and I've spawned in the middle of a firefight with the opponents, right? And I'm sure everybody here who is at least, somewhat of a PvP player that's happened to. If it hasn't happened to you, you're lying, or you've never played PvP ever. So the next point here: address spawn traps for Altar of Flame, Cauldron, Endless Veil, Midtown, and Meltdown. Man, Midtown's spawn traps are awful. Some of these other maps, I'm sure one way or another, I can't think of any offhand, but I do know Midtown. Every time I get trapped in some spawn area, and especially when you spawn on the one side of the map and somebody's standing on the bridge and just snipes you as soon as you spawn. It's awful. Awful. All right, so here's what's coming on March 5th in the 7.3.5 update. They're doing an additional map spotting quality of life pass. They're addressing spawn traps for Eternity and Fortress. They're removing all backfield spawns for non-rift modes on the Citadel, Cathedral of Dusk, Disjunction, and Convergence. This will effectively make the maps play 30 to 50% smaller than they do currently and reduce the amount of time spent running back to the combat after spawning. Great. Perfect. Getting in there, getting into the action. A lot of times games, especially shooters, time to action or time to shoot, right? That's what you want. You don't want to start out slow, especially in a PvP area of the game. Do you want a little time to catch your bearings before you get in the battle? Sure. Do you need to run around for 30 seconds before you find someone? No. Get in there. Let's get these maps moving. How many times have you thought that a PvP match has been drawn out for so long because you can't find people, or maybe a match has timed out because you didn't get to your kill limit fast enough or your point limit or whatever? This is a good move. I agree with it. I think it's great. Major tuning to the initial spawning, heavy ammo crate, and tiebreaker zone locations for all maps. Great. We're also making changes to our workflows that will allow us to update the above variables more easily. In the future, we'll be able to more quickly address issues with map imbalance and spawning. Great. I think this is great. I think Destiny needs this. I think it's needed it for a long time, and the fact that they're kind of changing up their focus area on this, and having that dedicated PvP strike team too. I know with the layoffs and everything, we were kind of worried about what that meant for this strike team, but the fact that it's still intact somewhat for now, at least, and they've changed their workflow and they've changed their priorities for PvP. It brings a lot of hope for me, at least, that PvP will change for the better in a lot of areas. We'll get to some of the competitive PvP soon, but in my opinion, this is all good. This is all good initially, from the outside looking in. This is all good. Excuse me. Crucible focused players may also feel left behind in terms of locations as they get less exposure to the awesome new destinations that come with our releases. For example, Europa and Neomuna have exciting palettes that our PvP focused players rarely get to experience. In May, we're releasing new maps to explore these locations. Awesome. New maps on the new planets. Well, new, right? I mean, Europa's 3 years old at this point, so that's great, though. I'm happy we are finally getting new maps on these planets. It's the weather stuff on Europa would be really interesting to add an element to PvP. I think Neomuna is one of the coolest locations in Destiny. I know Lightfall campaign was whatever on Neomuna, but I still think the aesthetic of Neomuna is really awesome. So in the May update, they're adding 3 new maps to the Crucible: Eventide Labs on Europa, Cirrus Plaza from Neomuna, and Dissonance on a terraformed pyramid ship. Awesome. Great. Love it. So the terraformed pyramid ship, I wonder if that's inside where what's his face? The raid. Can't think of it. Oh my god. I feel real dumb right now. But I wonder if that's where it's at. So great. Root of Nightmares. Thank you. Root of Nightmares seems that's where that's taking place. That's awesome. I think that raid is really cool looking. It's not the best raid. It's actually incredibly easy the 3 times that I've done it. I mean, anybody that I played that raid with in the Discord knows that. I mean, it was my first time playing through the raid. Granted, I was playing with people that knew what they were doing, but we got through it in 45 minutes. So let's talk about some rewards. Rewards. So some of this stuff is where I would recommend some of the heavier PvP players open the TWAB, because we're getting into Artifice Armor, competitive Crucible, stuff like that, which is where I am not as knowledgeable about the game. But we're gonna push through it. We're gonna see. Dealer, you can yell at me later. Joasis, Ronnie, you can yell at me, even though I don't trust what you're saying either. So it's fine. Just kidding. We love you. We want Crucible to feel at least as rewarding as PvE, with post-game drops on par with strike activities in terms of rewarding materials and activity-specific loot. We also want PvP players to have more consistent methods of being rewarded and build crafting materials. This has led to make the following changes, which are currently available in-game. So this is already happening. I wonder if this happened with the current reset, or maybe the last reset. So in general, already live. Increase end of match rewards, including more glimmer and high chance for enhancement cores and Crucible engrams. Created double reward boosters for PvP. Great, that's awesome. Especially for like a generalized PvP match, like I think that's great. For competitive, what's already live, added weapon focusing. Added a second tier 2 competitive weekly challenge that awards ascendant alloys. I'm sure that's really exciting for competitive PvP players. Also, it says we are also looking to improve our endgame rewards. While some players may choose to play only a few Crucible games per week, we like to reward players who continue to remain active. In competitive, we also will be offering 2 major incentives for continued success throughout the week. Artifice Armor in competitive Crucible. The first reward for the first time in Destiny PvP, in addition to Artifice Armor, is the addition of Artifice Armor in competitive Crucible. This is great. I think people have been wanting this for a long time. It gives people something to chase. It gives people something to grind for. It gives people a reason to play competitive, I think, outside of trials or something like that. This high stat armor will be attainable as a reward from the new third tier of the competitive division weekly challenge. After completion of the weekly challenge, Artifice Armor will continue to have a chance to drop on further victories. That's great. Keep it coming. If you're getting that far, keep the drops coming. Let people keep going. Grind for this armor. That's great. These Artifice Armor pieces are giving the year 1 Crucible gear a new lease on life. Okay, well, reused armor, whatever. I guess with all of the transmogs and stuff and different armor sets that you can buy and transmog, I guess what it looks like doesn't really matter anymore. But maybe some of the perks are different because it's year 1 armor. That is something a PvP player would have to address. I'm not 100% sure how that works right now. There's also a list of the armor that drops. You guys can go check that out in the TWAB. As this armor will drop from competitive Crucible, we will keep dungeon Artifice Armor drops to the dungeons they are associated with. The inclusion of Artifice Armor as reward aligns with our goals of allowing PvP focused players to have an in-game track that rivals PvE rewards. Again, something we've been talking about on the show for a year and a half, maybe longer. PvP players don't really have an end game aside from grinding for trials and grinding to get to the lighthouse and stuff like that. You can always grind for armor and grind for those stats, but there's not really that thing to chase, really, right? Except for the god rolls on the weapons. And anybody who's played a lot of PvP probably has those weapons. So this gives people something else to chase end game stuff. That's great. Another key change we're adding in the update 7.3.5 is the increased chance for exotic weapon catalysts on victories. Like Artifice Armor, this offers meaningful way to upgrade a Guardian's power while rewarding continued competitive success. So what's being added, they're adding a third tier to the competitive weekly challenge with a new reward of Artifice Armor. This tier will be unlocked for all players who reach rank Gold 3 or above each season. This tier will require match victories instead of completions. Upon completion of the challenge, each victory thereafter will have a chance of dropping Artifice Armor, and the drop rates will increase alongside your rank. Competitive matches will also have an increased chance to drop exotic catalysts on victories. Great. This is all good stuff, in my opinion. All right. So there's also stuff being added to trials. Let's see. In trials, we want to strike a better balance between the efforts versus reward equation for going flawless, while also increasing reward options for players who cannot go flawless. To that end, we recently added flawless card rewards. With updates 7.3.5 on March 5th, we'll update the passage of ferocity and a new passage of persistence. All right, so here's what's already live in trials. Added 50% chance to get a trials weapon on wins. Great. With the update, this will be updated to exclusively drop the weekly weapon reward to better allow targeted farming on the specific weapon you want. Awesome. Targeted farming. I think Josh has brought that up a lot over the course of the last year or two. I think that's great. We're making the following changes to the two trials passages. For passage of ferocity, if you have not been flawless for the week, losses after 3 wins will reset you back to 3 wins instead of flawing your card. That's interesting. With new passage of persistence, losing the following losses following a win will remove the win from your card. Consecutive losses do not remove additional wins. Getting to 7 wins grants you a drop of the weekly adept weapon, regardless of how many losses you have taken. Trials people, you're gonna have to write in about this. I don't know. I don't know if this sounds kind of like a backward step for trials. I feel like trials is for the hardest core PvP players out there, especially to try to get the adept weapons and to get to the lighthouse and stuff. So I'm going to need some clarification from you guys out there on that. This passage works like a trailing backstop. Once you have at least 1 win recorded on the passage, a loss will remove the most recent win instead of flawing it. Since consecutive losses will not remove additional wins, winning 2 games in a row adds a permanent win to the card, and win streaks longer than 2 add additional permanent wins. You can only go flawless on this passage if you do not have a win removed. Okay, well that answers that question then, I guess. Once a win has been removed, you can no longer get flawless using this passage, but you can still earn a roll of the weekly adept weapon. I'm going to need some clarification on that as well, because I thought going flawless, you go to the lighthouse and you get the adept weapon. I thought that was the whole point of the lighthouse. Unless I just haven't been paying attention to PvP whatsoever, which is very likely. So I'm going to need some clarification on that, everybody. We'll see. We'll see if somebody lets me know how dumb I am. It'd be great. Join the Discord. Tell me how dumb I am. We're also adding rewards for match completions by 3-person fire teams and trials. Although you don't need to win to earn these rewards, they are participation gated, so simply jumping off the map or sitting AFK in spawn will disqualify you from getting them. Additional 50% chance to drop the non-adept trials weekly weapon reward. A 50% chance of getting a trials engram drop and additional trials reputation. So that's for the fire team completion. That's great. I think that's cool. If you play with your friends, you get rewarded. Seems reasonable enough. The goal of these changes is to encourage players to team up with friends. With losses being less of a punishment, players can have more fun and be well rewarded while doing so. I think this seems like a good balance of, if you really want to be hardcore at trials, you go for the wins, you go for flawless. But I think I think trials has, in my opinion, in the past, scared a lot of, I don't want to say casual PvP players, but have scared teams away because trials has always seemed like the hardcore PvP mode. Uh, and some people that haven't played, especially this far into Destiny or this deep into Destiny, um, maybe feel hesitant to jump in because it has that reputation. Now, people that play trials may not think it does, but I think people who don't play trials and don't pay attention to the TWAB every week, or don't pay attention to the community, they hear these things from players that maybe they're playing with, or maybe they've joined the Fireteam Finder and people are talking, and trials just seems a little bit scary to some people. I know people that trials seem scary too, and they don't want to play trials. I've often wanted to jump into trials just to have some fun and try to get a sense of what the game mode is trying to do. And I know that different modes rotate in and out for trials now. It's not just elimination, but uh, trials has always been fascinating to me. I've just never had enough time and or people to, you know, jump in a serious manner with. So uh, I don't know. This seems like a decent balance. Let me know if you think this isn't a good balance. I think this seems like a decent balance uh, to maybe ease people with friends who want to jump in and maybe try trials for a weekend or so. I am glad they are doing something about the AFK spawn thing, or jumping off the edge of the map to try to get these participation uh, weapons or chances to drop things. I think obviously there's been a lot of that in Destiny in recent memory, right? Where people were cheesing these things to get completions or add to their reputation or something, right? Uh, and so the fact that they're kind of taking that step seems like a good thing. Uh, all right. Right now, competitive modes are not at the bar of quality to best promote an exhibition of skill and mastery between teams. So we're getting into the game modes now. FYI, forgot to make that announcement. We're recently updating Countdown Rush rule set in competitive, and are introducing a new King of the Hill mode called Collision to Crucible Labs in update 7.3.5. The goal is to replace Countdown Rush in the competitive playlist after testing. We also feel like our quick play modes are lagging in updates. Even though new modes are being made, they have been either a party mode like Relic, or limited time modes like Iron Banner Fortress, Eruption, and Tribute. Fortress and Eruption are cool modes for Iron Banner. I will say that. Uh, Outside those, players have had the same options for too long. We want to make new core modes available to the standardized playlists and private matches. We also want to experiment with interesting twists on Destiny PvP that still retain the core feeling of our gameplay without being limited time events. So here's what's already live. Created Sparrow Control, added 3v3 Clash in Crucible Labs, updated Countdown Rush for rule set for competitive. That's already live. What's coming with 7.3.5 is a 3v3 Clash. We'll be moving to the 3v3 quick play rotator, and we'll be making these updates to the rules. Heavy ammo will no longer be shared. Respawn timer increasing from 5 to 7 seconds. Man, 2 seconds. That's a hefty wait. Match timer increases to 10 minutes, but the score to win remains 40. A new 3v3 King of the Hill mode Collision will enter Crucible Labs. A single larger zone will rotate between 5 points around the map on a timer. Capturing and controlling the point will earn your team points. Okay, so it's just kind of explaining King of the Hill here. This mode will also test an alternative special ammo crate system. The special ammo crate system will feature 4 shareable special ammo crates that spawn simultaneous at the beginning of the game or round, and then on a timer afterwards. Okay, that seems pretty standard. Each control zone location, A, B, or C, will have an associated special ammo crate, and the 4th crate will be in a neutral location. Okay. Players who currently have special ammo will drop special ammo bricks on death. Okay, that seems standard. It is our goal to polish and refine both new special ammo acquisition systems, ammo meter, and ammo crates. They then can be utilized along with the spawn ammo system and can pick up ammo acquisition system that works best for each mode. Okay. Iron Banner Tribute has also undergone multiple changes, including simplifying objectives and scoring, including changing the trigger for the hunt from depositing max crest to a team score threshold. Removing the quote wall hacks on players carrying max crests, cleaning up their user experience by decreasing the distance at which crest icons can be seen. That seems interesting. I'm also haven't played this mode really, so I'm not 100% sure what they're talking about. This sounds like what was that mode that was really popular, kind of like where you pick up the crest after you kill someone. That kind of seems like what this is. Supremacy was what it was called. We're also reworking how quick the beacons despawn and rotate significantly decreasing the time it takes to interact to dunk crests. Okay, so it seems like a mix between Supremacy and Rift. Again, this is just me not playing this mode because I don't go out of my way to play PvP really anymore. Maybe that's on me. With update 7.3.6, Checkmate will be back in Crucible Labs, returning in a form closer to its original iteration. 30% penalty on ability cooldowns, no starting special ammo. Melee damage will not be increased, so it'll take 3 base melees to kill. Okay. So Checkmate kind of sounds like their version of SWAT from Halo. I think we've talked about Checkmate a lot on this show, and I just kind of, I'm not gonna lie, when PvP comes up, sometimes I just let Josh handle the information because PvP players will listen. A new modifier hardware will be tested in labs. Primary weapon optimal times to kill will be shifted to allow a more tactical sandbox, in line with the original goal of Checkmate as a modifier. It's no abilities, only weapons. Grab special and heavy ammo from crates located around the map and get to shooting. Great. We've been asking for a no abilities mode for a while, right? Or a limited abilities mode for a while. Coming with the final shape, private matches will have more options for players to set per mode. Modifiers such as Mayhem or Scorch will be options in any game mode. Play custom matches with your clanmates and friends or leverage Fireteam Finder. We have also added some more custom tuning for existing game modes, so you'll have better control over things like special ammo delivery ability, cooldowns, reviving, respawning, and more. Okay. So those are private matches. That seems okay. Private matches are private matches. I think you should have as many modifiers as you want in a private match. I think that makes a lot of sense. I think some of these other modes. Here's the thing: we're gonna get into sandbox issues in a minute. I think PvP has been neglected for so long. The fact that they're doing this 3-4 years after our last kind of significant major PvP initiative says a lot about how PvP has been treated. And if you haven't really noticed PvP stuff being neglected, just look at this TWAB, listen to this episode. You'll see. I mean, it's crazy how much they're just like, and again, with, former Halo person taking over as game director, maybe with Joe Blackburn kind of transitioning out of that role, maybe this has something to do with it. Maybe this is just something that they knew they needed to focus on, from a year ago or whatever, when they created this PvP strike team. But man, this is so much PvP stuff. And the fact that they're like using obviously Crucible Labs as like a testing ground for this stuff, like, man, this all just, I don't know. Sometimes when I read these huge twabs, and this isn't always the case, but sometimes I read these and they're just, it's incredible that Destiny even functions as a video game, right? I mean, it's incredible that any game functions as a video game when you hear some of the behind the scenes stuff, or read stuff like this, or hear engine issues or whatever, right? But like, man, I am just blown away at some of this stuff sometimes. You got to give a lot of credit to the developers, and still putting so much effort into trying to make this game something that people enjoy, right? You got to give it to the developers, got to give it to the people passionate about Destiny, passionate about making this game truly still Destiny is still like a one of a kind game, right? I think the closest we ever got to something else like Destiny was The Division. And I mean, they're still making updates to The Division too. Credit to Ubisoft, I guess. But anytime any other game kind of tries, they just, they're gone. There are a handful of MMOs out there that are thriving, right? Final Fantasy is one. WoW is still trucking along. What are some other ones? Is Guild Wars still around? I don't know. Warframe is still happening. I guess that would be the closest kind of analog to Destiny, would be Warframe, I guess. But you see something like Avengers and stuff like that. It's just, man, games are hard. Games are hard, and the Sony financial stuff that came out, and kind of essentially pointing at Bungie, it seems, according to certain reports. I'm not 100% sure how true that is. I haven't really looked into it, but they're spending a lot of money on Destiny. Let's be honest. They're spending a lot of money and they're trying to make it right. And I think, we kind of talk shit about Destiny's leadership sometimes, especially recently, which I think in some cases deservingly so. But you have to kind of give it up for them spending the money to correct the mistakes on the game. Laying off people, that's a different story. That's another story. Missing their financial goals, another story. Getting mixed up with Sony's leadership and what Sony wants to do versus what Bungie wants to do, different story. But spending up money on the game to try to make it right, especially, after Vanilla Destiny, after Vanilla Destiny 2, came back with Forsaken, after Shadowkeep came back with Lightfall and the Witch Queen. Now they're trying to do it again after Lightfall. It just, they're trying, and you got to give it to them. So, all right, let's get into these sandbox issues, addressing problems across the skill curve. If you want to read about a lot of the sandbox changes, last week's episode, Josh and I talked about it. It's also in last week's TWAB. You can go look at it. I'm not going to read the short recap here. But basically, what's coming with update 7.3.5, the Crucible sandbox is getting a significant shakeup to increase battlefield readability and understanding. That's great, because sometimes I have a hard time reading the battlefield. I don't know if it's because I'm just bad at PvP, if I just can't see. Maybe I'm just not used to the maps because I don't play enough PvP. Some of the maps, at least. We're also adjusting the weapon sandbox to encourage primary weapon mastery and reduce the prevalence of high reward, low risk weapon playstyles. Great. The following are Crucible specific changes. Player health. Base HP increased by 30 from 70 to 100. I feel like we read this. Maybe this is the quick recap. It's fine. We'll go through it anyway. I think that's great. I think the time to kill sometimes is a little too fast in Destiny. Again, that's from somebody who's mediocre at best in PvP. Abilities. Grenade, melee, and class ability cooldowns increased by 15%. Melee damage increased by 16%. Super cooldown increased by 20%. Super damage increased by 31%. Jeez, 31%. Oh my gosh. Guess I'll be trying to see what I can do with my Striker Titan. It seems fun. Primary weapon balance. Bow damage decreasing by 15%. Good. I'm tired of getting sniped by bows and people having, that unlimited primary ammo to take me down with essentially a sniper or bow, right? People are really good with bows in PvP, and it really bothers me. Maybe I'm just jealous because I'm not good with a bow or any weapons. All of the primary weapons critical hit damage increasing by between 10 and 14%, depending on the archetype, to maintain the same optimal time to kill as the current sandbox. Okay. Decreasing hand cannon and submachine gun body shot damage by 5 and 3% respectively. Special ammo after initial spawn will be earned through kills or completion of objectives. Makes sense. The goal is not to force players to utilize the double primary playstyle, but to encourage smart and measured special ammo usage. Okay, I guess I won't run around with a shotgun and just shoot it whenever I want, because that's how I play PvP. Increasing the damage of short and mid-range special ammo weapons like shotguns, trace rifles, fusion rifles, and glaive projectiles by 20%. Okay. Do glaives really need more buffs? I feel like every time we read a TWAB, the glaive's getting buffed. Like it's just going to be, people are going to be running 3 glaives if they can at some point. Am I wrong? Like I feel like every other TWAB, the glaives are getting getting buffed. Specific balance change highlights limiting the uptime for Wishender's true sight ability, reducing sniper rifle aim assist, reducing the flinch dealt by players by hand cannon, slowing down the activation speed of target lock and submachine guns only, reducing threaded Spectre uptime in PvP, reducing threadling damage to players, and threadlings will be easier to destroy. Reducing fighting line and devil's rune beam damage versus players. People using fighting line, is that a thing? With the final shape, we're working on changes to reduce the dominance of Ward of Dawn and Well of Radiance. Oh, come on. Ward of Dawn, that's my go-to. I'm the bubble titan. You can't take that away from me. We also want to improve the visibility of supers with longer recharge times and objective game modes. We'll have more to share on this as we get closer to the release of the final shape. And after the final shape, we are also exploring UI updates to the obituary screen that would show the combination of players that killed you rather than who dealt the final blow. Interesting. All right, so let's get into matchmaking details. We are about halfway through this TWAB, everybody. So if you're still here, hello, welcome. Thanks for staying. All right, so we're not going to get into the Normandy crew winners. I'm just checking out the TWAB right now to see how much we really have left. All right, let's get into this matchmaking stuff, everybody. We have a lot to cover for matchmaking, so let's do a quick rundown of the changes we made and what is planned before getting into the full details. Here's what's already live: replacing the loose skill-based matchmaking in Iron Banner and Control with a new outlier protection matchmaking system. Updated competitive matchmaking to be rank-based. Currently testing several different configurations of a new snake draft lobby balancer. That's interesting. I gotta take a sip. I gotta take a sippy sip. Hold on. Refreshing. All right. In 7.3.5, we will be updating our playlist tool tips to correctly display which matchmaking style is used for each mode. We have several changes planned for our ongoing experiment with Snake Draft lobbying balances, aiming at improving how it handles fire teams. So yeah, matchmaking seems to be changing. I don't know. I know people have different opinions on matchmaking, whether it's skill based or rank based or whatever. I don't know. It always just seems like a point of contention for players. Is that like a competitive thing? Is that like I'm a casual PvP player. I want to be playing with people in my like. I don't know. I want to know what everybody thinks. I don't know what to think. I'll be honest with you. Sometimes I feel like I get into matches and I'm dominating and I'm like really wanting to keep going, and then the next match I'll just get wrecked. So I don't know. Sometimes I don't think matchmaking works very well. Let's see. Do I need to read this entire paragraph here? Let's see. I'm going to read these bullet points here. Our match. Let's see. And it's not clear to define. Okay, so it's just saying how complex their matchmaking system is. I don't really need to read that, but I will read these bullet points. Our matchmaking systems do not individually force players to a 1.0 kill death ratio or 50% win ratio. Intentionally allow players to dominate for a few games, then place them into games where they get destroyed. Hey, that's me. That's totally me. Sacrifice connection quality for skill or any other filter. Our three most common matchmaking systems, outlier protection, rank base, and open skill, all keep average connection quality generally within the same bounds. In fact, outlier protection and rank base have, on average, slightly better connection quality than open skill due to the increased time they remain in the optimal connection bracket while searching for matches. So now that we've gone over what they don't do, how exactly do the different matchmaking systems work? All right, so let's get into how they work. In our game, the range of player skills is measured from -1,000 to 1,000, and the feel of a match can often be determined by overall skill delta, which is the difference in skill between the highest and lowest players in the game. Games with deltas of less than 500 will generally feel competitive, with few or no players outclassed, though there will be a difference in performance between the highest and lowest players. Colloquially, we can refer to this as the sweat zone. Sweaty players. There's nothing sillier than a sweaty player. Okay. Funny story. My nephew likes to say he's a hardcore sweat, and I tell him to take a shower because he smells. Little uncle humor, I guess. With deltas greater than 500 and less than 1,000, there will be a notable skill variance present, usually enough to avoid games from feeling too sweaty. Some players will be outclassed, but it is unlikely there will be people in the match who are completely in over their heads. For well-populated and unranked game modes like Control and Iron Banner, we consider this to be the Goldilocks zone, where games can present varied experiences without becoming stomping grounds. At deltas larger than 1,000, there will likely be one or more players who get a few or no kills the entire game, while contributing double-digit deaths. We can refer to this as the stomp zone. These experiences result in some of the largest negative sentiment spikes we see in our game and are heavy drivers for player departures. With that information in mind, let's talk about our specific matchmaking strategies. So, let's talk about this first. I wonder if, like, since so many people have kind of migrated away from Destiny's PvP somewhat, that the reason why matches feel kind of all over the place is because there are less people playing. And I'm sure that's what it is, because they have a smaller sample size to rank people. They have a smaller sample size to match people up with people. And so, yeah, I can see why people kind of get discouraged sometimes, especially, this game's been on sale the last couple weeks, like really cheap. And over Christmas, the Epic Game Store was giving it away for like everything for free except for, I think, Lightfall campaign, which I picked up because I didn't know if I was going to get like a handheld like ROG Ally or something. And there has been an influx of new-ish players, I would say. Not a lot, but I'm seeing an influx of players who, just anecdotally saying, hey, I got this cheap. Is it worth playing? Like, what's PvP like? And I'm just like, I would play the game and get used to the mechanics first before you go into PvP, because right now there's not a lot of people playing the game, and you should be aware of people who are hardcore PvP players. That's what I tell people. Even the most seasoned PvE players sometimes avoid PvP. So, ranked based matchmaking. Let's talk about this. Used in competitive playlists, rank based matchmaking matches based on skill only, and placement matches before you have been ranked. Once you have been ranked, your current rank is converted to a value we can use in place of skill, in a range between -1,000 and 1,000, and you are matched based on that. For example, if you are in Gold 2, it tries to find other Gold 2 players. If it cannot, it will expand to look within the neighboring minor ranks. In this case, Gold 3 and Gold 1. Okay, that makes sense, right? I mean, that makes sense. If there are no available players in the given amount of time, the matchmaking will continue to expand through minor ranks until it reaches a maximum of just beyond one major rank up or down. The only exception to this maximum bracket is if you are an Ascendant 2 or Ascendant 1, where there are not always enough players to match in these narrow bands. Okay, that makes sense. These players can be considered Ascendant 3 for matchmaking purposes, helping to prevent extremely long queue times. That makes sense, right? You don't want to sit forever. In our most recent pool of ranked-based matchmaking stats, here are the numbers. 67% of rank-based matches started with converted rank deltas of less than 300. I don't know if I really need to go through all these numbers and stuff. Basically, it's just kind of going through how they merge ranked-based matchmaking. If you are a competitive PvP player, go look at it. It's really interesting if you are into that. So I'm going to move into open skill matchmaking here. But like I said, if you want to know a lot of these numbers, they're all in here. You can definitely look at that. There are also numbers throughout the rest of this TWAB that I will probably be skipping just based on A, time, and B, it's not helpful to a lot of players, but the people who are hardcore at PvP will be interested in this. So I do recommend opening the TWAB again. Open skill matchmaking. This type of matchmaking is used in our quick play playlists, Crucible Labs, Rumble, and the Trials Challenger pool. It's designated to find you a game as quickly as possible, with the only limitation being connection quality. Okay, great. The skill bracket starts fully expanded to the widest possible values. If there are enough players to fill the match, it will wait a while and then slowly expand to the connection quality filters. And then it kind of gives, obviously, the stats on skill-based matchmaking. We see the question a lot: why can't all the non-competitive playlists just be open skill? Okay, so it's kind of talking about all that. Even Guardian Game Supremacy, which often referred to as an example of a successful open skill playlist, was by the end of its second week consistently hitting a lower percentage of daily active players than the Crucible playlist averaged in the following months, which at the time had an initial iteration of loose skill based matchmaking. So this just seems like a lot of statistics that they've been pulling over the last however many months. It explains loose skill based matchmaking, their outlier protection stuff. And so I'm trying to see if it's worth talking about some of this other stuff. Let's see. Outlier protection. I know this is great radio. Yeah, these the rest of this is just kind of explaining how they use outlier protection. We could go into this fire team. Let's go into fire team matchmaking real quick, and then we'll get into the rest of this TWAB here. We're almost done. We have accessibility and console UI updates, prophecy dungeon weapons update, which seems really interesting. I do want to get to that, and then we'll get to questions. Let's see. Fire team based matchmaking. Let's talk about this in trials specifically. Okay, so for those of you into trials, here we go. We understand that the experience for full fire teams has suffered as the difficulty has increased with fire team based matchmaking, and the solution is not as simple as it initially may appear. The two common suggestions for how to solve this issue with trials and the kind of matchmaking are: make it so only trios can queue, make it so duos cannot queue, or they can queue, but they are not protected from trios. Both styles of matchmaking have been used before and contributed to previous deteriorations of the trials ecosystem. Before we allowed non-trio fire teams into trials, participants were at an all-time low. Great. Let's see. If we were to revert to only allowing trios to queue, the available population would decrease substantially. Most players would not manually find other players to group with, and the overall population would likely decrease by 30% or more. That's a lot. I would say more. If you can't queue with trios, I would say more. As the population would continue to decrease, skill creep would eat away at the numbers of three-person fire teams that can compete, and eventually the trio's experience would feel much the same as it does now, except players would not have the solo or duo experience to fall back on. Agreed. I think both of those, as they explain it, make sense. I don't know. I think it makes sense. Similarly, after we allow non-trio fire teams into trials, but before fire team-based matchmaking, solo and duo participation peaked and then steadily decreased to minimal values outside of freelance weekends. These dedicated weekends spiked the population back up, and it always fell off, following the reversion back to the standard unprotected matchmaking. I think that makes sense. Ironically, if we were to prohibit duos from queuing, or if we did not protect them from trios, we would end up with experiences much like what occurred during previous freelance weekends. This again does not actually benefit trios at all. The trios population would increase slightly as a small percentage of duos moved upwards, but those are generally going to be players of above average skill. The rest of the duos would now choose to play solo instead. This would make playing solo by far the best way to play trials, and the trio population would eventually dry up again. That all makes sense. So it kind of goes back into trios still have the highest flaws percentages, kind of goes into some of those statistics. So let's get into what they're kind of doing to ameliorate that. We kind of went over some of this earlier, but just to recap, we've modified the passage of ferocity and added new passage of persistence to make getting a first flawless more attainable and allow players who cannot get flaws to still earn adept weapons. Yep, we went over all this already. Players who start as part of a 3-person fire team will give an additional rewards on match completions, including additional 50% chance to drop at a non-adept trials weekly weapon reward, a 50% chance at a trials engram drop, and additional trials reputation. Great. We knew all that. I hope trials. I just feel like trials has never really found its footing in Destiny 2. I think there was like one kind of, 6-month period where it found its footing, and then they started changing things again, and then it just never did again. It's kind of weird because trials was like the mode in Destiny 1, right? And I don't like being that person that keeps going back to comparing Destiny 2 to Destiny 1 because I think Destiny 2 is a far superior game in a lot of ways, in many ways. But I think Trials is the one kind of mode that you can circle and be like, man, Destiny 1 Trials was really hardcore and really stood out as the mode and actually drew people in to play PvP in Destiny. And I just feel like it even I remember when Trials of the 9 happened, right? In vanilla D2 and or not vanilla D2, but shortly after, and people were just like, what is this? um so that's kind of, I hope these changes work out for Trials. Again, if you are a competitive player, it seems some of these changes are not beneficial to competitive players. I want to know why, as someone who is not a competitive PvP player. Let's talk about lobby balancing real quick, and then we'll get into the rest of the 12, and then we'll answer some questions. We understand that lobby balancing is currently a pain point. Some complaints about matchmaking can be more accurately attributed to lobby balancing, as it can make games feel unfair for one or both teams when players are improperly sorted. Because lobby balancing can have such an outsized effect on how the games feel, it is very important to us that we make sure to get it right before we fully move into a new system. Okay, that makes sense. The original lobby balancer simply tried to make the average overall skill of both teams as close as possible. And while it might not seem like it, there are several things that could cause lobby balancing to deteriorate to an even lower quality. So here are some of the changes. Here's what's already live. They've replaced loose skill based matchmaking and Iron Banner control with the new outlier protection matchmaking system, which we talked about earlier. They've updated competitive matchmaking to be rank based. Okay, we talked about that earlier. And update 7.3.5 will also cap the win and loss min max values to make them less variable, which should make point rewards more predictable. Great. I think anything that makes rewards more attainable to a degree and more predictable to a degree is good for the game. I do still think there needs to be in-game rewards that are harder to get, and that, I do think there should be rewards that only the hardcorest of the hardcore and the best of the best should be able to obtain in a lot of ways. But I think for the average player, they need something to chase to, and I think this is that happy medium. And they are currently testing several different configurations of a new snake draft lobby. Okay, we talked about that also. All right, the rest of this is just kind of going over what we already talked about. So let's get into, for those who are on console, UI updates. There's some here. In 7.3.5, they're adding the reticle location setting to console, to center or below center, and you can kind of change it as much as wherever you want it. For me, it would be below center. I feel like when I'm in the center, I miss high. I'm one of those people who miss high. So if I had it below center, that might help me quite a bit. Players can change the location of the reticle regardless of the platform in the gameplay settings menu. When a PC player changes their reticle location setting, it does not change the reticle location setting on console, and vice versa. So you're going to have to change it if you play on PC and on console. You're going to have to change it. I wonder if that change, if you play on Xbox and then you play your same account on PlayStation, if you have to change that as well. I wonder if that's a thing. Maybe. I mean, I don't know that many people who are swapping between consoles, right? But I'm somebody who has both consoles and has Destiny on both consoles based on the friends that I'm playing with. Not all of my friends use Discord, so having to swap chats it's just easier for me to have it on both consoles. So I wonder if I'll test that out and maybe come back in a couple weeks with that answer. Let's see. They added controller dead zone settings, which is great. I know that's been kind of a complaint for a while for controller players. So that's good. With the ability to adjust dead zone values, players can dial in a movement setting that feels just right for their playstyle and for a more enjoyable play session. Players can change their reticle and axial controller dead zone values in the controller settings menu. They've added the ability to adjust the opacity of the radar background. You know what I really liked, actually? Speaking of radars, and this doesn't really have anything to do with Destiny, but I wish Destiny would add this feature. If you played The Division, you could move the radar and the map system to anywhere you wanted on the screen, which was really helpful. I actually ended up just putting it on my character's backpack. And I know I know that's a third person game and this is a first person game, but being able to move that to a position where it would be more useful, so you wouldn't have to take your eyes off of, moving your eyes around the screen, especially somebody who plays on a giant TV instead of a monitor. Being able to have that within, without moving my eyes away from, especially in a PvP sense, I feel like that would be really helpful, to be honest. I doubt they'll do that though, because The Division's the only game I've ever seen it done. I think Ghost Recon, whatever, not Wildlands, the one that came out after that. I want to say it was Breakpoint. I think that did it too. But those are the only two games I think that really ever did it. Oh well. I digress. Man, I've talked way more about The Division today than I have in like the last 2 years. If you're playing The Division, let me know. I won't play with you because I have no interest in revisiting The Division. So there are Prophecy Dungeon weapons update. This is the last section of the TWAB. I'm not reading the Normandy crew stuff. So let's see. In update 7.3.5, we'll be updating the weapons pool in the Prophecy Dungeon. This includes swapping out 3 weapons and making some key updates to the other existing weapons. They are removing a Swift Verdict, which is the sidearm, the Long Walk sniper rifle, and the Last Breath auto rifle. There's a new origin trait coming. And all the new and updated weapons below will be given this new origin trait, Crossing Over. These weapons have increased range and handling for the top half of the magazine, while rounds in the bottom half of the magazine deal increased damage. That's a cool trait. I'm okay with that. Man, this hat is slightly too big. It's like a size up from what I normally wear, and it's a little bit big. That's fine. Here's what they're adding. These weapons will receive all new perk pools and in some cases new damage types. The Prosecutor auto rifle, precision frame, arc, the Adjudicator. That sounds like a hard word to say. That's a submachine gun. Relentless, the pulse rifle. So that's what's being added. You can check out their new perk pools if you want. They're all listed here. Here's what's being updated. These weapons will be receiving new perk pools and new damage types. So, the Judgment Hand Cannon. I will name these damage type changes. So it's changing from a kinetic to a stasis hand cannon, which is interesting. Darkest Before pulse rifle is changing from arc to solar. A sudden death shotgun is changing from arc to void. So those are some interesting. Those are some interesting changes. Updated encounter drops. The Phalanx Echo, the Relentless Pulse Rifle, and the Prosecutor Auto Rifle are dropping there. The Cube is dropping a Sudden Death Shotgun, Adjudicator Submachine Gun. Man, they look. I know there's a lot of weapons in Destiny, but sometimes I feel like these names, they just throw letters into a like one of those bingo pickers, and they just pick out a bunch of letters, and it just, I don't know, letter vomit everywhere. And then the Kel Echo will drop Judgment and Darkest Before. So that's your TWAB for the week. If you want to check out the Normandy stuff, the kind of like the costumes and whatever, you can go check that out. By the way, the Mass Effect stuff, I know we make fun of warlocks a lot on this show, but I've been dabbling in some warlock because I got that Liara costume. I might as well use it. You know what I mean? It's a good time. It's a good time. All right, everybody. If you've made it this far, thank you for sticking with me. I know a solo show isn't really what you wanted, but that's okay. I'm here to answer the questions anyway. So we are here to answer your questions. Remember, if you want your question answered, go to our Discord. Under podcast, there's a new question thread every week. Just says questions with the date. You go in there, you ask your questions. Don't email us. Don't leave us Instagram DMs. Don't leave us Twitter DMs. Most likely not going to get to them in time. So go to our Discord. Join the Discord. Join our friends. Also join the Discord if you want to do raids or PvP or dungeons. I know the dungeon crawl is coming up. That nerd setup. I know everybody's really excited for that. I'm excited to see who wins. Probably another costume contest coming up at some point. It's gonna be a good time. Also, episode 200 is coming up. We'll probably gonna do something for that as well. We'll get Nerd on and maybe A1 Johnny, and we'll do some. Do something cool for episode 200. Let's get into these questions. Joasis, don't know if you've already answered this, probably have, but favorite raid encounter of all time and least favorite raid encounter of all time. All right. Well, man, my favorite of all time is the Oryx fight. I think that's a given. I think I've talked to death about the Taken King. Is my favorite raid. I also really like Wrath of the Machine, the final encounter in that. Not really an encounter, but I love Deepstone Crypt when you go into space for the first time and you just kind of look down from the space station. I know it's not an encounter, but it's probably one of the coolest moments in Destiny ever. I do want to shout out Ralk. Ralk is a great encounter. Clap hands all around. I think it's awesome. Man, least favorite. Man, this is kind of tough because there aren't really a lot of I don't think there's a lot of bad encounters that granted, I haven't played all the raids. Okay, so if I'm missing one, please don't yell at me. Trying to go through the raids in my head. I think the lanterns in Crota, original Crota, are just stupid. I think that's a stupid encounter. I don't know if it's a bad encounter, but it's a stupid encounter. The War Priest I hate that encounter so much. Not because it's a bad encounter per se. It's just that encounter is so buggy all the time. There's always someone. It's just always buggy, and I don't understand why it's buggy all the time. But I just hate the War Priest. That sucks. Although, shout out to Gogoroth. I think that's an underrated encounter. I'm gonna throw that out there. Underrated. I also really think the not that it's not that it's a bad encounter per se, but I also think the pillars in the pyramid uh are, I think that encounter is pretty bad. Um, I think sometimes it confuses people on where to go, which temple to go into, and which kind of symbols to shoot. I think that's kind of a bad encounter. Uh, but yeah, I think Rolk is one of the best encounters. Um, I definitely think Orcs is my favorite encounter for sure. Also, shout out to the first time you we knocked Atheon off the ledge in Vault. Go team. Am I right? Go team. Gamer God Johnny. I'm glad you changed your name to ask this question. You thought I wouldn't get here, would you? You thought I wouldn't see it. I got a fun one for you. What crossover armor sets would you like to see in the future? You know what, Johnny? I'm going to answer your question. I'm going to answer it because Josh isn't here. Okay. I will do this for you. I have some thoughts on crossovers. Okay. I have some thoughts on crossovers. I think it works in certain games. Obviously, Fortnite has become the master of crossover events and stuff. Uh, Minecraft is also one that kind of gets away with it, but those aren't really. Destiny has a story. It has themes. It has uh, you know characters that you should take serious, and it has an aesthetic to it. And I know it changes depending on what race you're fighting or what season it is or whatever, but the thematic essence of Destiny is generally set, right? And so when you put something like The Witcher with chainmail in there, or Assassin's Creed, to me, or God of War, that doesn't make sense to me. That doesn't make sense to me in terms of Destiny's aesthetic, especially for Titans. I mean, first of all, can we just talk about how terrible Titan armor is? It's terrible. Please. The Mass Effect set is the best set they've put out in a long time. Um, but that said, the Mass Effect set is probably the best crossover they could have possibly done. And I think the Mass Effect set is awesome. Um, I think the N7 stuff is incredible. I think the Liara set for the Warlocks is awesome. I think the Garrus set is cool for hunters. It doesn't quite nail the Garrus look, but I still like it. I think Thane might have been cooler, but I know more people like Garrus than Thane, so uh, there's that. I I do want to say I am fully expecting, and this is because it's a Sony thing, and they're and this series is already known for crossovers and other franchises. I am fully expecting a Final Fantasy crossover of some sort, whether it's 16 or 7. I am expecting a Final Fantasy 7 crossover at some point. Whether you want to believe it or not, whether you want to, you know, which characters are which, whatever, like I think I really think a Final Fantasy 7 crossover is coming at some point. Other franchises that would make sense. I mean, we've got the Halo crossover, right? That totally made sense. I totally expect when Marathon comes over, there's Marathon armor sets in Destiny and vice versa. Um, so that's kind of where I'm at there. I'm kind of shocked we haven't gotten things like Star Wars or something. Uh, I was gonna say we didn't get a Horizon set, but I think that when the God of War set came out for Titans, I think Horizon was a set for hunters because the Ghost of Tsushima one was for warlocks. So I think that's where I'm at on these crossover things. I think crossovers are cool when done right. if it makes sense for the game. I'm not as down on it as Josh is, but also I think the Witcher set was incredibly stupid because it doesn't make sense in this universe. So that's where I'm at on crossovers. I would like to see more at some point if it makes sense. Don't just put a crossover in it to make it a crossover. Although they might, just because it'll make them money, which is why I fully expect a Final Fantasy VII one at some point this year. All right, our next question. Also, Johnny, I don't hate you. I know I said it in the question thread. I don't hate you. I really love you and your insights, and your musk, and your scent. Our next question. Jiggly Panda writes in. Since food casuals has become somewhat of a weekly occurrence, what is your favorite type of pizza? And what is one hot take you have on pizza? So, pizza for me, I really like pizza. Also, there are different subsets of pizza. We're going to get into a whole thing with pizza here, okay? If I want like good pizza, I like a thinner crust, not thin crust, but just like sometimes you get pizza and the crust is like super thick and it's all bread and no toppings or whatever, right? I like a thinner crust. I like dry crust. I don't like when it's lathered in butter and garlic and all that. I like a kind of a dry crust with just sauce. I enjoy good cheese pizza. I'm going to be honest with you. I enjoy good cheese pizza. I enjoy a good pepperoni pizza. I really like bacon and jalapenos on a pizza. That's really good. But that's about where I stop with toppings. I'm not a huge experimenter of toppings. What I just named is the pizza I'll eat. Sometimes I'll eat I'll eat a barbecue chicken pizza, but I don't know if I really count that as pizza. So that's kind of where, if I want garbage pizza, I'm going to Domino's. If I just want the trash pizza to eat pizza for pizza's sake, it's Domino's. Papa John's can get fucked. Okay. Pizza Hut sucks. I'm going to Domino's. There's also a place by where I work. Gianito's is good. Zeppi's is good. I don't know if that's like a regional chain, nationwide chain, like a municipal chain, whatever. But it's those places are good. There's also a place by my house called Dewey's, which is very, very good. It's specialty pizza. We do get the Southwestern barbecue chicken from there, and it's very good. They have the best crust. I also want to make note that when I went to New York City for the first time, New York ruined pizza for me. And I'm not saying their pizza is bad. I'm saying their pizza is the best. New York City pizza is the best pizza on the planet. And I'll just leave it there. A good large slice of cheese or pepperoni with some crushed red peppers in New York is the best pizza. So that's how I feel about pizza. Jiggly Panda also asks, I know crossover questions are getting old, but hopefully this will cause some discussion. Why does a game like Fortnite or Mortal Kombat get the crossovers done right, but a game like Destiny or Call of Duty just can't seem to get a grasp for them? Let's see. So again, I kind of already answered this question, but we can go into it a little bit more in depth. Fortnite set a standard for themselves for crossovers when they started creating, Banana Man and Marshmallow Head and whatever else these characters are named, the pink bear that looks stupid, of just being a silly game where people can go in and just kill other people, right? It's silly, it's dumb, it's fun. It became popular, and then they started, small with their licenses and their crossovers, but then, I just talked about it on my other podcast. Disney just invested $1.5 billion into Epic so they could build their own version of a crossover universe. And, Disney, in my opinion, has been doing a great job of managing their IP in video games and giving the right IP to the right studios. And I know John Drake is kind of heading up Disney's gaming division, previously at Sony, and kind of in charge or part of that team who's been doing that. I think they've been doing a great job for the most part. I actually think, despite what people think of the Avengers, I actually think if they were to have made a single player, non loot driven Avengers game, Crystal Dynamics was the right choice for the Avengers. But they decided, Square Square tried to do something else with it because they wanted that game as a service, and it just didn't happen. Which is fine. You miss once in a while, but Guardians of the Galaxy is great. The Spider-Man games are great. Wolverine looks good. They just announced that Epic Mickey is coming back, which is an underrated Wii game. One of the only Wii games I actually enjoyed. The Star Wars games have been pretty good. Fallen Order was really good. Battlefront 2 was great despite the microtransaction kind of snafu that they experienced at launch. So overall, I kind of think Disney's been hitting on their licenses. Star Wars Outlaws from Ubisoft looks awesome. That that Avatar game people liked generally, I think. So Disney's been doing great with their games. And so when you look at something like Fortnite, who has incorporated a lot of Marvel and Star Wars stuff, and also obviously the DC stuff, and that had a ton of crossovers like John Wick and that kind of thing. Ninja Turtles just came into Fortnite, and I bought all of them because I'm an idiot. They nailed it because their tone is silly, and their tone isn't. Fortnite. I get, my nephew says it has a story going on, and Josh says it has a story. I have no idea what's going on, and I think that's the fact that it's so light on any type of story that's in the game makes it easy for them to have crossovers. The same with Mortal Kombat, right? Where like Mortal Kombat has a story and it's easy to follow, but also Mortal Kombat is really dumb and really silly in a grotesque way. And I think that having the right characters in Mortal Kombat makes sense, right? Peacemaker was just announced yesterday. Or the gameplay reveal was yesterday or today or whatever. And Peacemaker totally makes sense in that universe, right? But you wouldn't have someone like, one of these other Marvel characters like Captain America would not make sense in Mortal Kombat. Just wouldn't, Peacemaker is silly, violent, and whatever blood or gore you see in Peacemaker is done in a comedic fashion. Deadpool and Wolverine may be the only ones I could see in Mortal Kombat. Right, if you were to go to the Marvel route. But the character from The Boys that's also in it, and the character from Invincible that's also coming, right? Those characters make sense because those are violent shows, but also the same type of violent that Mortal Kombat is, where like it's violent and kind of gross, especially as we get closer and closer to more realistic graphics and stuff like that. But like, it's also real silly to rip someone's spine out of their neck and watch blood squirt everywhere. So, and I think from what I know of The Boys and from what I know of Invincible, that stuff is, it's not comedic in the way that Mortal Kombat is, but the way that gore is produced in those shows is similar to Mortal Kombat, and that's why it makes sense. But then you get something like Destiny, right? And Destiny has, like I said earlier, themes and tones, and certain crossovers make sense, like the Mass Effect one, and certain ones don't. I think they've hit on some, and they have not hit on others. So that's my opinion. Call of Duty, I have no opinion on Call of Duty. I don't think Call of Duty knows what it wants to be anymore, and now it's up to Microsoft to figure that out. So we'll see. I know it went from like what it at one point it was like Bruce Willis from Die Hard and Rambo to what Snoop Dogg and Nicki Minaj. I have no idea I don't know what's going on with Call of Duty. I haven't played Call of Duty since what, Black Ops 2 maybe. I think Black Ops 2 was the last one I bought. Maybe Black Ops 3. And Black Ops 3, it might have been Black Ops 3, and it was starting to turn that corner of like kind of weird. Whichever one had the blackout mode, which was their first battle royale attempt. It was the last one that I bought and played. So that's my opinion on crossovers. I think Fortnite does an excellent job, despite what people say about Fortnite. I think Mortal Kombat gets it right most of the time. So, also with baseball season starting soon, how do you think your teams will do this season? Well, I expect the Cleveland Guardians to be surprisingly good for a while and then disappoint us by the end of the season, because that's what happens every year. I can't speak for Josh, but just follow Josh on Twitter at Josh_Finn, 2 N's. I'm sure he'll be ranting and raving about it very soon. Knox writes in, what kind of PvE/PvP event or encounter would you like to see added to Destiny? So I talk about this with my friend Mitch all the time. Prison of Elders was a great great PvE type event that you could just jump into. If you only had an hour to play, you could run through a couple of things of Prison of Elders. It doesn't need to be exactly Prison of Elders, but I miss that type of, let's jump in, who are we fighting, what are the objectives, let's do this and get some rewards at the end and get out. There can be a hardcore one like Skolas, although fuck Skolas, but I wouldn't mind seeing another Prison of Elders type situation here. That's what I would want. PvP wise, I don't know. We've got a lot of PvP modes that theoretically work. I don't know what I wouldn't have, and I don't know what I would add. But yeah, I hope that answers your question. I would love to see another Prison of Elders type event or mode come in. Let's see. Do we have any more questions here? Let's see. There's a lot of people asking about this cheat thing going on here. I'm trying to scroll through here. There's a lot of talk on this cheat thing. I guess my stance on the cheat thing, I guess someone got banned. I haven't really been paying attention. I don't really pay attention to Destiny streamers or content creators. I don't care about that stuff the way that a lot of other people do. I watch My Name is Bife a lot. I used to watch Gathalion and old school Destiny people, Dado sometimes. I don't watch some like Astrocross, kind of really just annoys me, to be honest with you. Some of these other Destiny creators just really annoy me, so I don't really pay attention. But this anti-cheat thing, from what I've been reading in the chat and in the Discord and in this question thread, it seems like this software is something to use for mods in other games, and it seems that this is I don't know. It seems like you can't really mod Destiny with this, but it still reads in on PC as a cheat modifier in Destiny. I don't know. I don't know. I don't play on PC. I know there's a lot of weird things on PC that people like to experiment with. This seems like just from an outside looking in, it looks like a mistake, a little bit of a mistake. If this person is like a 4-time kind of world's first raider and, hasn't really been in trouble before, I don't know, this kind of seems like a little bit of a mistake if he's modding other games or using this to create files in other games. What if he's a Minecraft player or a Fallout player, and you mod those games, especially Bethesda games, if they're into Bethesda games at all, you know, not that this is the tool to mod Bethesda games, but you know what I mean? Like, these things are going to exist one way or another. And so I don't know. I hope this gets resolved in one way or another and the truth comes out. I think Destiny has to have a better system in place overall for cheaters. It just seems like they haven't figured it out in a lot of ways. And so this just seems like someone caught up in a bad situation in mixed messaging, and obviously detecting certain software seems like some sort of AI/programmable bot thing that tries to detect things when you log in, and this is just one of those things. I don't know. This seems like a bad time. That's all the questions, it seems, though. I think. Let me double check real quick, but I think that's gonna do it. We're not gonna do lore corner tonight. I have nothing prepared because of the long twab. Uh, I'm just looking. I know this is great radio again. I think that's it. So not bad. Hour and 41 minutes solo. I didn't expect to go that long. Hope you enjoyed this solo show. Josh will be back next week. I'll be back next week. Again, if you're going to PAX East in Boston, March 21st to the 24th, I will be there with my team from the Boss Rush Network and the Boss Rush podcast. You can check us out there. Also, I don't promote it a lot, but if you guys want to listen to other podcasts that I'm a part of, you can check out the Boss Rush podcast and Nintendo Power Block. Those are the other podcasts I host. Obviously, if you want to check out Tower Casual's sister show, Xbox Casuals, you can find that every other Monday. I got to find out if we're recording because we delayed the last one. So I don't know if we're recording this Monday, but you can find that every other Tuesday, on podcast services. You can follow me at I am Corey HD on Twitter and Instagram. Check out all the podcasts we are a part of. And so, yeah, that's it. I thank everybody for watching and or listening. Go out there, be good, be kind to everybody, be kind to one another. Thanks for making this community special. Join the Discord if you are a new listener, and join our awesome community. And I want to thank everybody for watching and or listening. And until next time, we love you. Goodbye.